Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Bali Kehal, and we are in Ethical Hacking Labs. Today, this is lab number 7 we are going to go over, and this lab is around your who is lookup. So basically, what is the sense of who is it's a tool which lets you gather your IP and domain name information based on a domain name or an IP address, and this information which you can gather is around certain key elements of a particular company. So I'm talking about is who is lookup, right? And so who is lookup is what we're trying to do. And as you can see, it basically lets you identify tons of information about a company, about a registered domain, and certain different aspects which you can definitely use in the reconnaissance and information gathering stages, especially when you're trying to see the validity of a company, trying to reach out who exactly is the company's main contact and so forth, right? So that's where this is really handy, and that is the main purpose of who is, right? So I will actually divide this session into a few parts. The first part I want to do is get you introduced to a tool, and then we'll slowly go into other aspects of it. So first is what is who is, right? And the best way to do it is let's go on the first search which came up, right? whois.net. And this will give you a little bit familiarity if you have not sure or not used whois.net or any similar tools. So tell you like how it is, how this tool works, right? Or how whois works. And so I'm going to go back. I just want to get some information about whois itself. So here you can see that ICANN has given a good information about whois, the history of it, like what exactly does whois mean. So let's click on the history of whois. So here, this is what you want to really look at from a first time getting introduced to whois perspective, right? I'll get you introduced to some tools also and how and what information you can mine out, but this is a good way to figure out how whois works. So whois basically traces whois traces its roots to 1982. That's what it says right here. And when the Internet Engineering Task Force published a protocol for your directory service for the ARPANET users. This is a good history, so you can go to the icann.org and go to whois. I'm not going to read through all of this, but basic dates, you should know that 1998 was when it was established, right? And then basically some other key information points and dates also mentioned here. There was a whois data reminder policy in 2003. The restored name accuracy policy was formed in 2004, and you can read about details what it was, that if a domain name is deleted because it contained incorrect contact data or there was no response to request for information, the name must remain on hold until the registrant provides updated and accurate whois data. So all these acts were put in place. And just to give you a background, so what people used to do back in the days was they used to buy a domain, right? And domains were that time not that cheap as you find right now, right? You can just get a domain for $10, $9.99 or $5 or $4 a year. But at that time, everything was new, everything was not so regulated, and there were not so many places where you could go and buy domain names. So a domain name and a responsibility to maintain a domain name was very important. And people used to usually have a very serious business around it in terms of like who is the admin and that you have to respond. And if somebody did not respond, people used to shut their domains because they thought it was fake, right? And or take the domain back, and then somebody else uses it, and maybe like this is a company who bought the domain, and somehow the email which was added in there was not a monitored email or not monitored on a regular basis. Now you just lose a domain and somebody else buys it. So what happens next? I mean, you got to pay that person, right, who bought your domain, and get your domain back, because that is your identity, your business's identity, right, on the web. on the World Wide Web. So those were some of the things which were happening, and that's why a lot of these policies were remade, restrictions were put in place, and it's gone through a lot of, I would say, transformation over the period of years. All right. Okay, so now this gives you a good idea about Whois, and I would suggest that you go in and read. I'm not going to read through all these policies with you. Not going to take too. That's going to take too much time, right? But few things to remember. Let's do a technical overview. Let's see what they put in technical overview. So this basically has your technical specification. So DNS and Whois, how it works. A domain name system, DNS, is a hierarchy distribution database to look information from unique names that we all know. And basically this is what you're interested in. Whois provides information sufficient to contact a responsible party for a particular internet resource who can solve or reliably pass on data to the party who can resolve. Right? So such related to so basically it is that contact, and there are different kind of contact informations which you can get through your Whois itself. All right. Great. So now, next thing which I want you to do is let's go on Google, and this is like ican.org in Whois, and you can basically go here and get more information around this. Okay. So I'm going to go back to Google, and of course, and then I want to first download a tool, right? And this tool is basically around Whois, and this will tell us what exactly you need to do when it comes down to what tools you can use, right? And the name of this tool is Smart Whois. All right. So let's type in Smart Whois. I'm just doing it one word. The first search result which I get back is a Smart Whois domain and IP lookup from Tamosoft, and that's what I'm looking for. Again, guys, I always mention whenever you're downloading tools from online, you need to make sure you're getting it from the person, from the location. You're downloading it from a valid or a trusted domain, because you don't want to end up downloading a tool who this put out there is called Smart Whois, but the hacker has basically packed some vulnerabilities and some malicious software along with it, and it kind of hijacks your terminal or operating system or computer, right? You have to be really, as an ethical hacker, now you have to keep a lookout for all these kind of scenarios. Earlier, you guys didn't care, and you guys ended up with a virus or a malicious, software on a computer or a malware, and then you basically had to wipe and reinstall. But now you are going to become an ethical hacker. You are going to become a security specialist. You have to look out for these kind of scenarios. You have to make sure that whenever you are trying to download any software, in this case from the Tamosoft website, this product is part of their catalog, first of all, and then do some research before you do that, right? I'm showing it to you, so trust me, I know that this is part of that particular catalog, right? So I've downloaded it a few times now. All right, so now let's they have done a quick overview. So this overview will give you a good understanding of what all does this Smart Whois do, right? So Whois is a useful network information utility that allows you to look up all the available information about an IP address, host name, or domain. So that this information includes your state, country, and all that stuff, right? And that's what I was referring to. And they have a small screenshot down here in which you can see how the UI looks like. What we're going to do is we're going to go in and download a version of it, right? Here is a list of the key features which this tool has, and this gives you a good idea that it's a smart operation. The program always looks up Whois data in the right database, and also it does integration with Microsoft IE and Outlook. So those of you who are not on Windows, I'm actually using a VM, a VirtualBox VM, and I've installed Windows 8.1 on it, and that's why, and I'm on a Mac. So basically, you can go in and install VirtualBox, and we have a lab on how to do that also. And you can install VirtualBox, and you can install Windows, and depending upon whatever operating system you are, because some of the tools which I'm showing in my labs are are Windows specific, just to let you know. All right, cool. So this basically goes around with all those different features. So now let's find the download link for this, right? So where is the download link? Okay, here is the so as you can see on top that there's a paid version. I don't want you to install a paid version. Okay, another thing which I want to bring up, and I always try to refresh your guys' memory on it. Use VM, VirtualBox. Okay, VirtualBox is Oracle's. It is free. What happens is that when you are practicing labs or download Ubuntu on it and download Kali from I'll tell you the sources and all, but download Windows, and that way whenever you're installing all these softwares which we are showing in the labs, you can work on your VM. So you're not installing a bunch of stuff on your main desktop, and the VMs you can always clean them up, reinstall them if you screw up anything, right? So that way you have full power on your computer, and when you turn it off, it's turned off, and it's not consuming any resources also, right? So I always tell all the students who are taking my labs and my classes that whenever you're installing any of the tools, which I'm going to go over 150 different scenarios just for CEH, right? All these different labs, and we have so many other labs. So don't just install all the softwares on your main machine. Use VMs, and then if you want to install something on your main one, use the ones which you like and which basically will help you get to it faster. But otherwise, VMs they fire up pretty fast. All right, cool. I hope everybody gets the point down there. So now again, this is a paid version for $39. We're not going to pay that. We're going to go to the download area. There is a eval version also, like a trial. So we're going to just click on the download area here, and basically find out which one works for us. So they have a multiple. So Tamasoft has multiple softwares which they basically publish, which they kind of let us use. And I see that some of them are for Mac, but this is for throughput. What I'm interested in is in Whois right here, and this is build 284. I'm just going to click, I'm running 8.1, so it looks like that kind of supports that. So 8.1 is part of the list. I'm going to just, I have a 64-bit. So I'm just going to hit download. And this is what this is going to do, is going to download the software locally on my computer, of course. I'm going to minimize it, and I have actually copied it on my, right here. Let's see, just a quick, want to make sure we got the right file. Yep, it says SW5, so it's software Whois 5.1, so that's the version we're looking for. And let's unzip it. I use 7-zip. I don't know if those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a free zipping and unzipping utility. It's worked pretty good for me. I like it. So you can say extract to it'll just create a folder and extract all the information down here. Then basically you double click on it and you click on setup. All right, and it says go through the default setup settings, do next, agreement, license agreement. I always encourage you to read through these. Sometimes you install some tools and you don't know what those tools are doing. That's why I always install it on a VM, so you don't have any liabilities. Well, I mean, if you have to, if it's a new tool, or if if you're using it wrongly, then you're in trouble. Always use them for doing, I would say, like, not hijacking or kind of ethically, just basically doing your ethical hacking classes, right? Make sure you're not trying to try or test these tools on some production websites or and so forth. Whois is just basically information gathering tool, so this should be pretty straightforward. You're not trying to do anything wrong by just using this tool. All right, so just do next. It'll install max.ie extensions, Mozilla extensions, Google extensions, and all that stuff. Actually, I don't need any of these extensions. Maybe Google Chrome extension is fine for now. And I'll say next. Launch Whois after installation. Create a shortcut of Whois on the desktop. Well, yes, let's create a shortcut and let's launch it, because we want to go through this tool. Next. It's a pretty small, nifty tool, and there you go. Who is about installation? Is about to install your. This is the Chrome extension which I said yes to. I would just say OK to it. And who uses TCP for connecting? Who is database and retrieving data? The Windows firewall must be configured to let whois make outbound connections. You can you can either do it manually or let the setup program do for you automatically. So out here, I will just suggest that you do it automatically. And if you don't need to do any extensions, that's fine too. I just did it just because, you know, for later on I can use them. I just said yes here and I'm going to finish. So now it's going up. Yeah, there you go. Would you like whois to automatically check for application updates? Not right now, maybe later. Okay, we don't need any application updates. We just installed you and we want to use you. All right, I'm going to just put it on full screen mode. So first domain which we want to do is, let's do facebook.com since it's very popular. I'm sure everybody's on Facebook who are on this in this particular class too, right? So facebook.com. It's very simple UI, right? I mean, it says IP host or domain. It lets you just do it right up on top, and you can basically get, you know, information about that particular domain in this case. All right. So we did facebook.com. It gives us an IP address. So that's the domain, facebook.com. This is an IP address, which basically it got served from, and it gets information about the domain administrator. Then it has the address of the company listed. It's based in California, of course, Menlo Park. And then it has the domain administrator. You have your it basically gives you phone numbers. It gives you different aspects of the domain itself, right? There you go. And then it has all the different domain administrators are listed down here. Usually it's domain at fb.com, phone numbers, they look the same. Then it has the DNS information about Facebook itself, Google page ranking. It also pulls in Google and Alexa page ranking. I don't know how accurate this Google page rank part is, but we can we'll do some more checkups and see if that makes any sense. And here it says that, you know, this is where the markmonitor.com, this is where the source is. So I'm going to just click view source, and it basically, this is the query which it sent out, and that's the source which it got back with all the different pieces of information for whois. And if you can see, it says register information, admin information, tech information. It has all the names. It also has, if there's a DNS sec, it's unsigned. A URL for ICANN, whois data problem reporting. So that's a URL for ICANN if there's a data problem reporting. And yeah, so that's basically everything which you can get for a particular domain. So now let's do another way, right? So what I want to do is let's launch. I'm going to go to okay, and see, I love Windows 10. I still get confused because once you go to Windows 8, 10, it's much better. So yeah, I just wanted to launch, just want to do CMD. Okay, so now I have a command prompt here. So what I want to do here is I want to basically go in and get the IP address of a domain. And I showed you in earlier labs, you can use ping command to get IP addresses of domains, right? So if I do facebook.com, it gives me an IP address, right? And this IP address, if you look carefully, where was that IP? It was on top, right? So if you look at it here, and it's the same IP address, right? So 13.13.76 or 68, all right? So now let's do a ping on, say, another website, say CNN.com, right? And let's get the IP address of CNN, and this is the IP address of CNN.com. I can select, I can mark, and then mark is basically you right click, and then you can mark a particular text in a command prompt, and again right click, that is going to copy it for you. So then I can then just come up here, paste that. So that is CNN.com, right? So now I'm going to do a IP based whois, smart whois. All right. So basically start enter. So that's where we get. So we got all the information, and this was the IP for CNN, right? And now you can do a IP based access too. So this is CNN.com, and even now if I do CNN.com, it should give me the same information. It's a Time Warner company. So CNN.com. There you go. So it is always better, even if you compare both of these. So they have the same IP address, right? CNN.com, the same IP address, 157.166.226.25. Well, it says 26 down here somehow. And when I did a ping earlier, it gave me a different IP address. So sometimes they have like a load balancer or multiple load balancers which are located in different parts of the globe or the nation or the country, and they get different sets of information, right? So and I got two different IP addresses for both of them, and I got the address which address should match. They are both in Atlanta, Georgia, but when I do a domain name, you can see I get more information, right? I get the TBS server operator information, I get the DNS information, the ranking information, the create date information, and so forth, right? And when I'm doing by the IP, well, it gives me a range also here, that this is the range. It gives me a little bit more information about that IP range and information around that IP range, and then some network operating. So it's pretty interesting how these two searches, which are around a same entity, can give you different sets of results, right? And that is something which I wanted you to understand, know, and get familiar with also. All right. So now let's do one more since we are going. And also, if you look at the menus, you have all these different options in here. Play around with it. You can do query based as IP and or host name, or as domain. And it's a very basic menu. There's nothing. I mean, this. You can do multiple languages. If you're non-English, it gives you a good choice of languages. Ping hosts, resolve addresses to host name, and so basically you can do a lot of stuff here. And you can do query. You can do as IP host name, as domain, and let's do as IP host name, and see here. Here it does like a IP. So this one and these two are the same because they are like as IP, and if you look at them, they are exactly the same, right? So that's the power of the tool, right? It basically lets you refresh the data. If you want to like refresh, it'll do a requery for you also. Pretty helpful, like once everything, and see how the results are nicely organized for you for later use or for later access, right? All right. So now this gives you a good idea about smart whois tool, right? Now let's look at another online. I'm going to just fire up my browser again, and I want you to go to another online tool in this case, or a website in this case, which is basically type who.is. Simple, whois, right? But it's who.is, right? So this is also another domain. There are different websites who give you the whois service, right? And some of them are also give you premium services and so forth. So this, what it does is it basically gives you basic information and also an IP address associated here. Let's just copy this IP address. This is actually my IP address. I'm going to do a Control V and just to enter. And this basically tells me that I'm using Comcast as my cable company, and this is a random IP. Since it's not a fixed IP, we can refresh our IP all the time. So, and it gives you other information. You can do ping from here. You can do trace route on this IP. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? But let's get back to the tool, the whois tool itself, and now let's try to do something more interesting with it. That is basically, let's do a domain whois, right? So another domain which is very popular is I would say Yahoo. Let's do yahoo.com and just hit enter. So here it goes. So Yahoo is registered. First of all, it also actually is finding for you if it's registered or not. And if it's not, then you can buy it. It's giving you a buying option, or you can, if you want to buy Yahoo domain itself, you can make them an offer. Good luck with that. All right. Usually companies don't sell their domains, guys. So I don't know, you can try it. And it tells you more information about, you know, the name, and then the whois server, what the mark monitor it's using, that expires on, and the name servers of this domain, raw registered data, and it's got, you know, all this raw registered data. There you go. So there's another thing where sometimes some domains are locked. That means the information is not shared, or they are private. So then you won't get this email addresses and so forth. They'll all be like in a hexadecimal string. It'll basically resolve to the right email address, but that information, since the person has said that I want the privacy to be turned on, I don't want it to show to people, then it will not show that. So if you come across something sometimes where it is locked, then you can basically look at that in that way. All right. Great. So now let's look at another thing down here. Let's look at so let's look at website info. So there's a whois info, then there's a website info also, which it provides in this who.is address. It also tells you the speed of the website, the links, the keywords, traffic data. It's basically pulling traffic data. It must be pulling from Alexa. Alexa is Alexa. If you guys don't know, if you don't know, we'll probably like get you introduced to it a little bit more. Then subdomains, which Yahoo is associated with. There's tons of subdomains down here. Well, there's a lot of subdomains actually, right? And there are more. So there's a lot of subdomains which Yahoo is associated with, because they are subdomains for Yahoo, and they've been around for a while. All right. So what other information is there? There's a history. Let's look at the history. So history basically lets you when it opens up. I'm just gonna close this bottom thing. We already downloaded it. So there you go. So there's no historical information. So DNS records. So name servers, we already looked at them, and then SOA records, and DNS records. This time to live 4 hours. So basically any kind of information which you need for your research and for your recon purposes, you can get it, you know, from here. There's some diagnostics information also. I would basically encourage you to go and play with it. Type in any domain name. Let's do one more domain name down here, and in this case, let's do apple.com. All right. So then you get information about apple.com, similar kind of information, expires, registered, basic information, the whois information, corporate domains, is like, you know, where it is registered from, and so forth, right? There's another website which, let's look at that, GoDaddy. So GoDaddy again, I mean, I prefer it for buying domains and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to see like how their stuff looks like. But yeah, a lot of people would show GoDaddy as their registrar because they are a domain registrar and service, and when you see that, that means like these are the registrars you're working with, right? So on your whois server. So that is, you know, a few things that you need to know, that what are registrars and how do they kind of play their role. They actually have some premium domains also, transfers and all that is part of the who or who.is, but that is not the scope of this lab at all. All right, so now let's go back. So now you understand how whois is working. You understand how the tool which I showed you, how that works, right? Now basically let's just look into some other things that let's see how Whois kind of goes through and does IP addresses, right? So let's do that. Let's do a Whois on Whois, right? That'll be interesting. So who.is. All right. Okay, so the few things which you can understand from this is, let's see, when was this company created? Role is who is. Well, this record was created January 26th. Okay, and created on September 11, 2011. So maybe that's the time when they're using Amazon. If you look at this, they're using Amazon Route 53 to do a lot of their stuff, or that's where they registered it and then or transferred it to, and basically September 14, 2011. So you can get a lot of information from a company's from this, like when this company was created, what all is involved in that, and kind of do a lot of information gathering that way, right? Let's do Whois on Amazon. That'll be interesting, right? AMA. Amazon. Just a second. All right. So Amazon.com. Registered on 94 November 1. All right, and this is other information about Amazon.com. You can see down here. Pretty cool, I think. So this tool is pretty nice, which gives you a lot of information about a particular company, right? Yeah. All right. So this should give you enough information about what all you need to know about a company, and how you can get all this information out, and history. Pretty interesting, I would say. So yeah, I get lost sometimes, just going through and start reading it. It becomes so interesting once you get yourself tuned with this whole role, which is the security analyst. You always curious. You always trying to find out like what is going on, like what all information you can grab and get for a particular company, and use that information in your practices, basically, right? So those are some of the key things. So now let's look through what all we have done so far. We have also, let's look at another Whois, right? So if you just go who space is lookup, which we did before on Google itself, the first option which comes is whois.net, right? So let's go to whois.net, and let's type in apple.com here, and let's see what comes back, right? So whois.net, that's the first set that you get. So here you go. So apple.com is already registered, so you cannot re-register it, guys. Those of you who want to register it under their name. And here is other information about that particular domain. So it's server names, IP addresses, and I'm going to just copy this IP address and basically try to use that IP address and see what information does this give us, right? So I'm going to put that here, enter, and it's doing its magic, and there you go. So looks like this one is only domain and keyword. Whois domain and keyword. So this does not do any IP addresses. That's weird. That's why the tool which I showed you before is basically for IP addresses also, right? Then you have other tools listed down here. Let's look at one more tool. Domain name Whois lookup from Namecheap. I think so. The MX Toolbox. This is good, actually, always good. So there was a who.is also down there. So let's look at domain down here. Does it do IP addresses? Let's just check it. we enable to process requests. So they only do no IP addresses. So invalid input. So let's do apple.com. All right. See, now you understand the tool which I showed you earlier. Why that tool which you need to download and use it, it does everything for you, right? You can, and it gets all the information. I'm sure it uses some kind of a API or a service in the background, but yeah. So if you look at this tool, it says who is server versions 2.0, and it gives you enough information about apple.com and beyond who is, and basically it gets more information down here, terms of use, report to VeriSign, about super tools. So there are some other super tools actually part of the MX toolbox, which I will discuss in some other labs, right? Not in this lab. So let's just do a quick review. I think so you get an understanding about, you know, how value whois is and what all you can do with it. So our first step was we went through whois using the tools Smart Whois, right? And Smart Whois, I showed you where to download it from. And those of you who kind of missed that, I'm just gonna do again. I'm gonna go to Google and type in Smart, S-M-A-R-T, Whois, just one word. And the first link which pops up is the TAMOS, TAMOS. So Tamo software. So it's TAMO and soft, Tamo soft, I would say. Then basically go when you go to Smart Whois, scroll all the way down. This is some feature list is here. If you're interested, just go through it, and they have some documentations and all that. So just go to the download area, choose the tool. They have multiple tools to download, so just don't blindly click download on the first link which you see. Make sure you select the tool and make sure the operating system version you're running, it supports that for sure, and then hit download, right? And once you hit download, it gets installed. You go through the default installation steps, and once you open the UI, it looks like this. So the front portion is here where you're going to enter your domains, and if you do amazon.com, just hit enter. It'll start getting all information about a particular domain name. And what you can also do is here, it's pretty cool. In the queries, you can do it by IP address. You can say as IP address. So then it'll do get information around an IP address, and then it'll give you the range. It's giving multiple ranges here. Then you can go and click on these ranges. So very interesting. You know, you can do multiple ways, multiple types of searches down here. All right. Then of course I got you familiar with the who.is website, right? And we kind of used that. Who.is was the website. So we'll just go over there again. Who.is. And I showed you how to run different things down here. So this is pretty neat because it also lets you do IP addresses. And this was, I think, one of the IP addresses which nobody else wanted to give any information on. And this one kind of goes in there, evaluates that for us, and gives all the information which is associated with that IP address. All right. So I hope you had fun going through this lab and getting familiar with whois. I will see you in the next lab and in the next class. All right, I hope you're having fun. Bye-bye.